Chris Squire, how's it going with the life in Yes these days?
Huh. Well, everything's pretty good. We had a good year last year on tour, and we were promoting, the Fly From Here album that was released in 2011, and so that all went real well. And apart from that, we're looking forward to. We're going out again in March and April, and we're going to be doing some shows, and included in that is this crazy cruise ship idea in the middle where we take off from Florida to Jamaica for 5 days and play a couple of shows on this huge boat. So that'll be a first.
So you've never played on a cruise ship yet?
No, I thought I'd go to my grave before I ever went on the cruise ship, honestly. But, so, yeah, and I never envisaged that Yes would end up being cruise ship singers, but apparently that's what's happening.
Do you find that that's the new trend of today, the people do go on vacations?
Yeah, I guess it is, yeah. A few people have done it, I guess. I think the Moody Blues are out there a week or two before our trip, and I believe Kiss already did something like that, I think. Not absolutely sure. Someone mentioned that.
So in that sense, it gets the people up close and personal in a sense with Yes?
I don't, well, I guess it's probably more just for the audience who fancy, going on a cruise around the islands and getting off and, doing a bit of sightseeing as well as combined with getting their fix of prog rock music, which I guess is the main point.
Now, with this tour coming up in March to April there, we got from what I read, it's going to be classic albums entirely, in one night. So what can we expect out of that?
Well, it's an idea that we've had sort of in the suggestion box rolling around for, I don't know, 15 years at least. And usually, when we go out on tour, it's to promote a new album, but we don't have one this year. So we thought we'd give this an experiment and find out if it was a good thing. It seems like the ticket buyers are pretty excited by it, so we're looking forward to it.
Going to Fly From Here album, let's say, for the recording process, how was it in your eyes compared to previous albums with Yes?
It was a real pleasure to be working with Trevor Horn again, who, as you may or may not know, was a member of Yes as a vocalist on the Drama album, and then he was involved in he was the producer of the 90125 album in the 80s, and then Big Generator album. He was also involved with that, and I hadn't worked with him since the late 80s, so it was really good to be back in the studio with Trevor. And of course, it was also different by the fact that we were working with Benoit David as our vocalist on that album, and he's since been actually replaced by a new singer, John Davison, who worked with us all last year. And so it was exciting to be making that album. And when we'd finished, everyone seemed pretty happy with it, which is a miracle, really, because that doesn't normally happen. So yeah, it was a good experience.
Like for, let's say, your bass gear and stuff, did much things change throughout the years for recording-wise?
Well, in terms of equipment?
Yes.
Well, obviously the whole recording process and and studio equipment is now firmly in the digital age. And of course, when we started, it was much more analog and tape machines and stuff that isn't really used these days, although a few people actually elect to record old school, and I know the last Foo Fighters album was done like that. But you know, I've been very happy, accepting change really, and I'm a bit of a gearhead myself, so I like modern innovations in the studio.
When you look into your back catalog, is there certain songs you recall and say, "Wow, how are we going to be playing this today in 2013?"
Well, no, we're pretty familiar with most of the material we're going to be doing on the upcoming tour. There's one song on the Yes album called "A Venture," which is a song we actually have never played live and in the form it's on the album, but it shouldn't be too difficult. It's one of our simpler songs. But apart from that, the most complex piece of music is going to be the Turn of the Century, which is a track from the Going for the One album, and that it's very complex musically, especially for the keyboard player. So we'll be having a good couple of weeks worth of rehearsal, I'm sure, before we set off on tour.
Now, for progressive rock bands, you don't get much bands that sell over 5 million albums, 50 million albums, I mean, in your whole collection. That's an incredible number. What do you think of that? And when you wake up in the morning.
We've been pretty popular, all over the world, since the early 70s, and I'm just very blessed and lucky, I suppose, that that's been the case. So, obviously we're proud of what we've achieved, and we love playing music. So, we will carry on doing that.
Now, Chris, let's say with the world changing, the industry changing, and tour changing, when you go on tour, did it change much in your point of view, like from the 70s to now in touring?
Well, yeah, obviously a lot of things have changed. I mean, a lot of things have been upgraded as well, so it's not as difficult to tour as it was one day. When we started, it was quite, especially when we started doing big shows in the States, that was a fairly complex thing. But of course, equipment has become so much more sophisticated now to put on shows, and in some ways, once again, the digital age being with us has made a lot of things much simpler to do. So, of course it's changed, but I've enjoyed seeing the changes and being around with them.
Now here's a good one. Let's say for the legacy of Yes, like, I don't know, in 100 years from now, for the future generations of, rock fans, where do you see that being, Yes, in this?
Well, I have an interesting theory about it, which I thought about recently, is that there could still be a Yes band in 100 years from now, and apart from some major medical breakthrough, I don't think I'll be in it, but I see like a city symphony orchestra. I believe there could be a version of Yes, in 100 or 200 years from now, and basically honoring the music and presumably creating new music as well. So that would be a nice thing, I think.
Imagine what the Yes of 200 years from now will be writing. That'll be interesting.
Who knows? Yeah. Who knows?
Excellent stuff with Chris. I really appreciate you taking this time and talking to me. And this tour, I'm sure, is going to go great. And look forward to the next Yes album.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
All right. You're very welcome.
Talking with you too.
All right. You have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.